Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. On today's class, we'll be learning how to draft a corset pattern with bracup. This video is highly beginner friendly and very easy to understand. So here you have it. I have placed my pattern. So like I said earlier, we are going to be making use of an already made cup for this pattern. So I've gone ahead to mark my shoulder to bust, my shoulder to under bust, my shoulder to top length or waistline. So as you can see also, I've marked my shoulder slant. I'll place my tape and I'll mark my shoulder divided by 2, which is 7. Then at my bust point, I'm also going to place my tape. I'm going to mark my bust divided by 4. So the reason why I'm marking this first is that I don't want my armhole curve to exceed my bust line. At my bust point, I'll also mark my shoulder divided by 2 and I'll draw a line and extend it. So after that, the next step I'm going to take is to mark my chest line. So to get your chest line, you divide your bust by 6 plus 1.5. So I have 7 inches and I'm just going to mark and extend the line. After extending the lines, I'm just going to clean off the unnecessary lines that I have there, just to have a neat pattern. After doing that, I'll go ahead and place my tape at my armhole area, and I'm going to divide what I have there into 2. 7 divided by 2, you have 3.5, and I'm going to mark. At that 3.5, I'm going to go in by half. Then after marking that half, I'll place my French curve and I'll use my pencil to outline my armhole. After outlining my armhole, I'm going ahead to use my marker and draw it out just to make it more visible. After outlining my armhole, the next step I'm going to take is to mark my dart intake. So at my under bust, I'm going to mark my nipple to nipple divided by 2, which is 3.5, and I'll also do that at my top length. Then I'll take my rule and I will connect, drawing a straight line. After connecting the straight line, I'm going to use my marker to outline the lines. The next step is to mark my dart intake. So at the other side, I'm going to mark ½ inch for dart intake, and I'm also going to mark half at the other side. Then I'll place my rule and I will connect it to my under bust at both sides. After outlining my line, the next step I'll take is to bring out my already made cup, because that's what we'll be doing next. So before I place my cup or position my cup at my bust line, I'm going to go up by ½ inch. So you can as well go up by 1. So from that point, I'll also go in by half. Then I'm going to draw my line and outline the marks that I made at that point. Then I'll pick my cup and I'm going to place it at my under bust. Make sure it sits at your under bust very well, and do not press in your cup. If not, you're going to get the wrong measurements. So here you have it. I've placed my cup. As you can see, it's sitting directly on top of my under bust. So I'll take my pencil and I'm going to trace the curve, the shape of the cup round the pattern. So be careful when you're doing this to avoid shifting the cup. After tracing it round, this is the shape or the curve I have at this point. I'll go ahead and place back my cup. So I'm going to trace out the line where the cup ends. That will serve as your new armhole or where your corset stops. Then I'm going to use my marker and I'm going to outline it, and also trace out or outline the shape I have from my under bust to the other side. After shaping it, I noticed that the cup at this other part did not get up to ½ inch because the bust I'm working with is a smaller bust. So I'm just going to go down and by 0.3 at that point. So it's not compulsory, depending on the cup you're working with. You might go up by ½ inch or 1 inch. So the cup I'm working with ends there, so I'll just trace it out at that point. I'll still place back my cup. Then the next thing I'll do is to take my body circumference. At my bust, I'm going to place my tape and I'm going to measure my bust divided by 4 and I'm going to mark it down. I will go down to my half length and I'm going to insert my waist measurement divided by 4 and I'm going to mark. Then I will add that 1 inch that I took. Remember, I marked half on both sides, giving me 1 inch, and I'll go ahead and mark. Then I'll place my rule and I will connect to draw a straight line. So after drawing out your body circumference, depending on the amount of allowance you want to give, you can go ahead and mark. So after marking that, I'm just going to mark 1 inch allowance. So you can use 2 or 2.5 or any amount of allowance you want to use. I'll take my marker and I'll blend out all my lines. After blending it out, I'm just going to use my scissors and I'm going to cut out my pattern. So before you cut out all your pattern, you need to mark ½ inch round for attaching your cup in case you're cutting directly on your fabric. So you're just going to mark this ½ inch round. So if you're not cutting directly on your fabric, you can as well just cut it out and then add your ½ inch round later when you're cutting out your whole pattern. Then I'll go ahead and outline it with my marker after marking it round. So if you're cutting directly on your fabric, you're just going to cut out where the second ½ inch started. But if you're cutting on your pattern paper, you can just cut it out and then add your ½ inch later. So I'm done cutting and I'll go ahead and open my pattern for you to see what I have. So I forgot to cut out the excess I have at my allowance, so you can also cut out your excess. Then this is my bra cup. As you can see, it fits in. So this is like the easiest method to draft a corset for a beginner. So after this is the back pattern. So for the back pattern, you don't really need to draft it. I'll just place a paper or pattern paper down and I'm going to trace what I have. And I'm not going to be attaching any zipper allowance. So if you're going to attach a zipper allowance, you're going to mark 2 inches in front. So I'll go ahead and pin it so that it will stick to the other pattern paper. And after doing that, I'm just going ahead to cut it out. So to make sure I'm cutting a straight line, I'm just going to place my rule on top of my pattern and I'm going to draw a straight line. After drawing the straight line, I'm just going to go ahead and use my scissors and I'm going to cut it all out. Next step is to mark your nipple to nipple measurement and I'm going to connect it with a ruler, drawing a straight line. After drawing the straight line, I'm just going to mark my dart intake at the lower part. So I'm going to mark half on this side and I also mark half on the other side. Then I'll place my ruler and I'm going to connect with my marker. So with that, the back pattern is ready. So here is my front and back pattern. This is what I have. So I'm going to open up the front and this is it. So with that, I'm done cutting the back. So the next step is to mark what you use to cover the cup. So this came out from the pattern. So I'm just going to place it back on a plain paper or pattern paper. Then I'm going to mark 2 inches round it. After marking it round, I'm just going to connect the lines and then use my scissors to cut it all out. So you're going to be cutting this into 2, one for one side of the cup and one for the other side of the cup. So at the end, you're going to be having 4 pieces of this, but I'm just going to cut 2 for the sake of this tutorial. I'm going to unpin the pattern I use in tracing it out. So the next thing you're going to do is just to mark 1/2 inch. So assuming this is your material that you're working with, you're just going to mark 1/2 inch from the beginning to the end, and then you're going to sew it up. So I'm just going to mark that 1/2 inch, and I'll use pin to show you or demonstrate. So just like I said, after marking out the 1/2, I'll go ahead and pin it up. After pinning it or sewing it from the beginning to the end, this is what you're going to have when you flip it. And remember to notch it at the back for it to be flat. Then you're just going to place your cup at the back this way. Make sure your fabric or pattern paper sits inside the cup very well to give allowance for your bust, and then you're going to trace out 1/2 inch round. I'll take my marker and I'm going to mark the 1/2, but before I do that, I'm going to pin my cup by the sides so that it won't shift while I'm marking the 1/2 inch round. After marking it round, I'm just going to use my marker and I will trace out the line very well. And then I will use my scissors to cut out what I have. After cutting it out, this is what I'm left with. So you're also going to place and cut again for the other side. So you're going to do for the front and you're going to do for the back side to cover the cup properly. Then you're just going to attach with the 1/2 inch that you marked round. So with this, we have come to the end. If you find this class very interesting and educative, please like, share and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and don't forget to turn on the notification button to get new updates from my channel, and don't forget to leave your comment at the comment section.